Welcome everyone to our first lesson on nutrition. And nutrition is pretty important. All right, you hear diet and exercise. Well, when I use the word diet, I don't think of somebody who's on a diet. They're trying to restrict their calories. Diet and nutrition, they're sort of the same thing. It's what the types of foods that we eat, throughout the course of a day, throughout the course of a week, a month, a year. And it's really important that we do the best we can to eat foods that we know are healthy for us. Now, how do we know certain foods are healthy for us? Well, we have a general idea. But there's things in those foods that really do make them healthy. And the term for that is what's known as a nutrient, okay, or nutrients. What are nutrients, right? They're pretty important. What are nutrients? Well, nutrients are essential to the body. Our body actually needs them. So you can think about it that way, that nutrients are things the body needs. And they need them because our body can't run certain body processes without them. So by eating a variety of foods, we can get all of the nutrients that we actually need. And there are 6 essential nutrient categories that we can get through food, through our diet. All right? And they are carbohydrates, fats, proteins, minerals, vitamins, and last but not least, water. Right? Water is a nutrient. It's essential to the body. Now let's take a look at each one of these categories. All right, the first one we're going to look at is protein. Now protein can be really consumed in a variety of ways. I know it's not on here, but sometimes you hear of people who take protein shakes. They sort of are like chocolate shakes or vanilla. And there are people that are trying to body build. They're trying to get big muscles and they're trying to get stronger. We often think of protein as a building block of the body, building block of body tissues. And it's quite true that amino acids are the building blocks of proteins, and proteins are the building blocks of muscles. So if you're trying to get stronger and you're working out, you really do want to get enough protein in your body. Now, how do we get protein? Well, we get it through chicken. Sometimes we refer to that as poultry, red meat, right? Steak, burgers. But that's not the only way. Fish, right? Not through animal products, but we can get them in other ways. Peanuts, dried beans, legumes. But people who are vegetarians, they can get them in a lot of other ways too. They don't, vegans, they don't eat meat. So how do they get their protein? Well, on the bottom there is what we know. It's a soy product, tofu. And it has a lot of protein in it. But even vegetables on the right, like kale, which is like a super, super healthy vegetable, spinach, broccoli, they all have protein in there. And so whether someone eats meat or not, they still can get enough protein in their diet. But they do need to be careful if they don't eat meat. All right, people who are vegetarians or vegans really do need to be concerned with the amount of protein that they're getting in their diet and also the amount of iron, because people who are vegetarians can become iron deficient. Iron is really, a lot of people get it through their diet through eating meat. So when people choose to become a vegetarian or choose to become vegan, it's their choice. But they really should be concerned with the types of foods that they're eating so they get enough protein in their diet. All right, so that's the first one, protein. Let's take a look at the next one, which is fats. Now we think of fats as being bad, right? And it's probably not a bad way to think about it. There are 2 types of fats. There are really saturated fats and unsaturated fats. And these 2 types are opposite, right? Saturated fats are not good for us, okay? On the left, butter, ice cream, sausage, hot dogs have a lot of saturated fat in there. Saturated fat comes from dairy products, come from meat products, and we really want to watch how much saturated fat we get in the body. Okay, saturated fat we think of as being high in cholesterol, high in calories, and so that's really not good for our heart. That's not really being heart healthy. On the opposite side, we have unsaturated fat. Oils, olive oil, canola oil, these are things that we can cook food in. That is a very healthy type of fat, kind of an alternative to saturated fats. right? Fat is essential in the body. If someone ever told you, "Oh, I'm 0% body fat," they would not be able to survive without fat. So that's impossible. Our body actually needs it. Our body uses it. Our body uses it for energy, right? In fact, we can actually burn fat that's stored on our body. So fat is something that's essential. There's two types, and in fact, some is unhealthy and some is actually quite healthy for us. Let's look at the next one, which is carbohydrates. Carbohydrates, people that exercise, this is what we burn when we exercise. Carbohydrates. The simplest form of a carbohydrate is in the upper left-hand screen, and that is known as sugar, glucose. Okay, glucose can be burned by the body for energy. Now, a lot of people get these simple sugars, okay, simple carbohydrates in the form of sugary beverages, soda, juice, which sometimes is actually corn syrup, a cheap alternative to sugar. Candy, same thing. Now, doesn't mean that you can't have a soda once in a while. Okay, you can't have Reese's Pieces once in a while. But when you're eating this kind of stuff all the time, that is really short-term energy, and typically it has a lot of calories. It's really not the greatest thing for us to be consuming. On the other side, we have complex carbohydrates, and pasta, rice, okay, even bread are complex carbohydrates. That is actually going to give us more energy. People that really are looking to they're an athlete, they really are looking for long-term energy. You might have a tournament in soccer over the weekend. You would be much more advised to eat complex carbohydrates, pastas, than you would with candy, all right? That is short-term energy, and really you would find that you would probably crash and just not have the energy that you would need. So carbohydrates are what we use when we exercise. We also burn fat as well. And very rarely do we actually burn protein for energy, because protein makes up our body tissue. Let's take a look at the last three nutrient categories. Minerals. All right. Well, minerals come from vegetables mostly, okay, but there are other types of ways to get minerals. Up there on the list, you can see milk, even fruit. Now, minerals, things such as calcium and phosphorus, that's really good for our bones. Iron is good for hemoglobin, which is contained within the red blood cells and transports oxygen throughout the body. If we don't have these minerals, we're going to be deficient, all right? We're going to have problems in certain areas. So if we don't have iron and we become iron deficient, we become anemic. We have a low red blood cell count. We can't get oxygen to where we need it to go. Calcium and phosphorus. Well, if you don't have calcium, you're deficient in that area, you can have weak bone density, okay? Brittle bones. And it makes it easier for your bones to break. So it's really important that, again, we eat a variety of foods, and that way we get the minerals that we need. And the same thing goes for our next one, vitamins. Vitamin A, well, where does that come from? Well, it comes from carrots, typically, that's what we think about. And it's good for our eyes. Vitamin D, I know it's not on our list that you're looking at right now. The vitamin D comes from the sun, okay? It's in milk, and it really helps us absorb calcium. Vitamin C, the one we always hear about. Well, it's good for our immune system. It's good for healthy bones and teeth. So we want to get all of these vitamins throughout, not necessarily all in one day, but through our diet, through eating a variety of foods over the course of a particular week or month. And vitamin B, that's one where you might have heard of some of those. They have different names like thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, pantothenic acid. If you look at Red Bull and some of those energy drinks, they're loaded with vitamin B. Now, I'm not saying that makes them good, because there's a lot of things about energy drinks that really aren't healthy for you. But they put them in there because they're actually good for energy production. And if you think of an energy drink, that's why they're in there, all right? But there are many different types of B vitamins. Now, the last nutrient category, which is probably, arguably maybe the most important, is water, okay? H2O. All right, you hear that a lot, H2O. Well, what does H2O really mean, right? Well, H2O is really the symbol of its chemical composition. H2O, Two H's. Well, what's two H's, right? It's hydrogen, right? Two hydrogens binded to an oxygen, and that makes up H2O, water. 60 to 70% of our body is water. So when we're dehydrated, that's a really big problem, all right? And we know when we're dehydrated, we become irritable, all right? We can become, aggressive, annoyed. So it's really important that we put enough water in our body, all right? And they usually say 8 ounces or 8-ounce glasses of water a day. Now, if you're really exercising, you probably want to get more than 8 glasses of water a day. And it seems like a lot. But you would know whether you were or were not hydrated. There's ways for us to know. If you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated. Your body's sending out signals, drink some water. Okay? When you go to the bathroom, all right, if you have to go to the bathroom a lot, your body is sensing that you have too much water and it wants to get rid of it. If you don't urinate frequently, right, well, then maybe your body is holding onto that water that is in there. It doesn't want to get rid of it because you're not drinking enough water. And it can't really risk getting rid of that water. So it retains it. It holds on to it. When we go to the bathroom, it's our second signal that whether we're hydrated or not. The first one was, are we relatively thirsty? But when we go to the bathroom and we urinate, if it's clear, that means our urine's very hydrated. It means our body's getting rid of that water, right? That we have almost more than is necessary. When we urinate and it's not clear, it's like a shade of yellow, as kind of as disgusting as this is kind of going here. If it's yellow or it's a dark shade of yellow, that is a signal that you are dehydrated and your body is not letting go of that water that is inside your body because it needs it. It actually doesn't even have enough as it is. So that's a big signal that you need to start drinking some more water, right? And we feel better when we're hydrated. It prevents injury. It makes us think clearer. Drink water. It's one of the best things that you can do for your diet. All right? So just as a quick recap, there are really 6 nutrient categories, things that are essential for the body. Carbohydrates, fats, protein, water, and minerals and vitamins make up those 6 essential categories.